that moment of wonder, that spark of inspiration when something happens and we're surprised and amazed by it. And we can change our perceptions of ourselves and the world around us, and by doing so, bring more fulfillment, joy, and positive experiences into our lives. He discovered that some of his patients, after undergoing facial surgery, would also undergo radical transformations of their personalities, and some didn't.
You should never underestimate the power of imagination.
So whenever Mitch Williams is here, I always feel like a kid. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Gary.
I'm always a little leery. Mitch, of course, is a famed magician, and we have a lot of information to get through. I know you're going to show us a trick or two, but first, we have a book. You wrote a book, A Call to Magic.
I did indeed. It's all about how to bring some real magic into your life.
And the subtitle, The Artful Science of Transforming Self and World. So what is it about?
It's about how we can change our perceptions of ourselves and the world around us, and by doing so, bring more fulfillment, joy, and positive experiences into our lives.
All right, very good. Where can people find the book?
It's on Amazon.
And now, as is traditional, you usually come here and blow my mind away with some magical trick. What do you have?
Well, you know, one of the things that I love about magic is it reminds us that things aren't always as they seem. And that's okay if we're willing to accept that, because our perceptions of what is possible and not possible might be a little different than what we think it is. Scientists would tell us that these three coins, which seem to be solid, actually aren't solid at all. One of the interesting things about matter at the subatomic level is that a particle can exist at one point in space at one particular moment in time, and in the next moment it can exist somewhere else without ever having existed anywhere in between in the meantime. 2 and 1 could just as easily be 1 and 2.
Oh my.
Because our perceptions of reality as being solid isn't what we think. But you know, even up at our level, what seems to be real might be completely different than what we think it is.
See, how do you do that? And I'm this close to you, and I still can't figure out how you do that. Hey, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
All
Good to
right.
see you.
A Call to Magic, the artful science of transforming self and world.
Welcome to Create Your Reality. Your host is Lynn Crocker.
Hi, and welcome to Create Your Reality. Today my guest is Mitch Williams. Hi, Mitch. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lynn. It's a pleasure to be here.
Just kind of tell listeners, how does magic fit into this self-help arena?
Magic, for me, is a perfect metaphor for the creative process itself. I mean, if we start to think about it, if we could do real magic, if I could just snap my fingers and suddenly whatever I wanted would appear right in front of me, well, that process would still entail having some kind of an inspiration of what I want to create, creating a mental image of what it is that I want, and then somehow causing it to become a physical reality. And of course, you and probably a lot of your listeners are very familiar with that process. It's a process of creative visualization, of goal setting, of manifesting what we want in our lives. And I again think of it as a magical process because it allows us to do things that might have seemed impossible otherwise.
Inspiration, being inspired. And magic is really about that moment of wonder, that spark of inspiration when something happens and we're surprised and amazed by it, and it becomes an obsession, an idea whose time has come, until it turns into something solid and real, and we can give it substance and form. And sometimes those ideas tend to go away, but they do tend to pop up again if they're really inspiring, and that's the great thing about it. And one idea can actually lead to another idea. They tend to multiply and reinforce one another. And magic is the same kind of thing. And the great thing is, when you have one of those inspired ideas that you focus on again and again and begin to build it in your imagination, that very process in and of itself allows us to take away those obstacles and the limitations. They begin to fade away as if by magic, and in a nutshell, that really is a creative process. That's why I love magic. I was introduced to the self-improvement arena, like I said, when I was in my teen years. One of the first books that I read on that subject is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Really, really, really interesting story of how he came to write the book and do what he did. Maxwell Maltz was actually a plastic surgeon. And he discovered that some of his patients, after undergoing facial surgery, would also undergo radical transformations of their personalities. And some didn't. And he wanted to know why. So he started looking into it. And it had to do with their self-image. And so that whole idea of self-image psychology really took hold with me, and I kind of ran with it. Also, because of my involvement in judo and the other martial arts, I was introduced in my teenage years to Eastern philosophies, and started seeing a lot of connections between Eastern philosophies and the whole creativity and self-help and self-development arena, and started bringing them together and combining them and seeing how they all fit together. And so I became really, really interested in that and really dove into studying those kinds of materials and started applying them to my life just to see how they fit, how they worked, and found that they do. And in a nutshell, that's kind of been my journey.
Always remember, you should never underestimate the power of imagination. I'll give you an example. Let's all just imagine that we could do real magic. Now, if that were true, we should be able to use anything to take any object, that had some kind of meaning for us personally, and merely with the power of our minds, endow it with magical properties. A simple piece of plastic could become a crystal wand, and it would develop magical characteristics. For instance, it might have the ability to disappear or reappear at our slightest thought. In fact, we'd only have to imagine that it was gone, and it would be. We could do real magic. We might have a wide variety of abilities. We might be able to move through time itself, to go forward into the future or back into the past in our imagination. We can go back to the very beginning. And as we held on to our imagination, those images might actually begin to change, take on new shapes,